Good morning, boys and girls. Today we are going to talk about area problems. And we've been talking a lot about perimeter and area problems. And in this case, we're going to talk specifically about what to do when you know the area and you're trying to find one of the missing dimensions. The main idea for this lesson is that you can apply various strategies taught this year to solve multi-digit multiplication and division problems. So let's jump right into the first problem that says a certain rectangle has an area of 252 square meters. This rectangle is 7 meters wide. How long is it? So if we follow, first question, what is the overall big question that it's asking? How long is it? So we're trying to find the length of the rectangle. Well, make a sketch. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw a rectangle, okay? Kind of a rectangle. And what do we know? Well, we know it has a total area of 252 square meters. And we know that it is 7 meters wide, okay? So if we know that our area formula, area equals length times width. And if we know that, we just plug in the numbers that we know. So we know a total area is 252. So I'm going to put in 252 equals, and we know it's 7 meters wide, so we don't know the length. We're trying to solve the length, so we'll just leave that variable L for the unknown that we're trying to find, times 7. So the equation is really 7 times what equals 252. You could leave it like that for the equation, or you could write it, if you know the total, we know the total area, you could then write it as a division problem. 252 divided by 7 is gonna give us our length. So then it says use an array or ratio table to model and solve the division problem. So I'm gonna use a ratio table. So if I know one group is 7, I'm trying to figure out how many total groups of 7 it's gonna take to get 252, okay? All right, so now there's a couple things. You could go and look at this and think, hey, 7 can a 7 go into 2? No. How many 7s go into 25 without going over? And you would say, well, 7 times 3 is 21, 7 times 4 is 28, so 21, that'd be 210, or I mean, you could just make the logical jumps and just start at 10. 1 times 10 is 10, 7 times 10 is 70. And then if we double that, 10 doubled is 20, 70 doubled is 140. Okay, and then I can look, and if I double 20, that's going to get me 40. But if I double 140, that's going to get me 280. And 280 is too high. So now let's just maybe go to the next one, what we've already done, and maybe I just add 10 plus 20 is 30. And if I added those together, I just add those together. Well, 3 times 7 is 21. So 30 times 7 would be 210, just increasing a place value. And this goes back to what I was talking about. If I know that 7 goes into 25 3 times, and then we have 1 place value, we could have, if we realize it and start out, and that will help us a lot more when we get to our long division towards the end of the school year. But now that I'm close, I see 210, and I need to get to 252. So what is the difference? How far away am I? Well, I look and I realize, hey, I'm 42 away, okay? Now you got to know basic math facts again. 7 times what gets me closest to 42 without going over? Well, in this case, 7 times 6 happens to be exactly 42. So then if I add those two together, that gets me my total. I would add those two together. So how many groups of 7? It would be 36 groups of 7. So now let's go back to our question. How long is it? Well, it's 36 meters long, okay? All right, let's look at another problem. A certain rectangle has an area of 693 square meters. This rectangle is 7 meters wide. How long is it? So let's start by, it says make a sketch again. So I'm going to draw my rectangle in. Okay. And I know that it's a total of 693, has an area because it's in square meters, and it has an area of 693, and it's 7 meters wide. So again, it's 7 meters wide. So knowing our area formula, that it's length times width, I could plug it in and say 693, well, make that a 9, 93 equals 7 times, in this case, the length, okay? So write an equation. You could leave it at that, or you could go 693 divide it, because we know the total, and if we know the total, we know it's going to be a division problem. 7 equals L, okay? And now we're just solving the division problem. So I'm going to make my ratio table, okay, and I'm going to say 1 is 7, and I know my total is 693, okay? Now, you could look at this and say, oh, that's really close to 700. So if I made a jump of 100, that would be 700. But it's just under 700. And if you notice how many under 700 it is, that could help you really easily solve the problem. Or we could start just doing our basic jumps on a ratio table. If I do 10, that would be 70. And then we could just keep doubling it. And then we go 20, and that's 140. And then if I double it again, that would be 40, which 140 doubled is 280. And then if I double 40, that gets me 80, which is 280 doubled is 560. And now I have to think, okay, well, if I double 80 again, I have to double this. 500 doubled is 1,000, and that's more than our answer. So doubling it's not going to help me or work. And if I added 80 plus 20, that would be the 100 that we just talked about is too much. So I'm just going to add 80 plus 10, which is 90. And 560 plus 70, see, that'd be 0, that'd be 13. That would be what? Well, that would be 630, okay? 630, so now again, basic facts. I have to look and see. I'm getting pretty close to 693. In fact, how far away am I from 693? I'm 63 away. So 7 times what gets me closest to 63 without going over? And in this case, 7 times 9 is exactly 63. So if I add these two together to make that, I have to add these two together, which then would be 99. Now, I'm just going to kind of clear this, that if you saw 7 times 100 is 700, well, this is 7 less than 700. So that's one group away. So that's why it's one group less than 100, which would make sense, right? Or you could begin, like when we were talking about place value earlier, begin by starting to look at the place values. Does a 7 go into 6? No. How many 7s go into 69 without going over it? Well, in this case, 9 times 7 is 63. So it would be 9, and then you have a place value. So if you realize that, your first jump could have gone right from 1 to 90. If not, you can still do this. It's just a little more work. But again, we're working really hard on trying to be efficient mathematicians, okay? All right, last problem we're going to look at today. Petra is raking leaves in her backyard. Petra's backyard is rectangular and has an area of 476 square feet. On one side, it's 28 feet. How long is the other side? So I'm going to start by drawing her backyard. So we know the total is 476, and this is a little bit more of a challenging problem because it's a double. Whoop, let me just erase. Oh, I lost my mouse here. Here we go. Sorry about that. 476. So 476 equals, so the area is 476, and then we know one side is 28, and does it really matter if it's the length or the width? In this case, it really doesn't, because times, we'll use the width. So if we know the length is 28, or the width, doesn't matter, we're trying to figure out 28 times what gets us 476. So again, I'm going to set up my ratio table. 1 is 28. And I'm trying to figure out how many groups of 28 it takes to get to 476. Okay, and this is a little bit more challenging because we're talking about a double-digit number doing division, which we haven't practiced a whole lot. So 1, I'm going to just make a jump of 10, and that would be 280. Okay. Now, if I double 280 again, 28 doubled is 56, so that would be 560. Well, that's too much. Then I know 250 is 500. 250 doubled would be 500, and this is more than 250, so that's going to get me over 476. So maybe I'm just going to half it. So let's half it. Half of 10 is 5. Half of 280 is 140. So, and then now let's combine them to get a group of 15. So let's see, that would be 0, 4, and plus 8 is 12, and then that'd be 3, so that'd be 420. So if I have 15 groups of 28, I'm at 420. Then I need to think, oh, I'm getting kind of close. So what is the difference between 476 and 420? Let's see, that would be, well, it's 56. So now I have to think, how many 28 times what gets me 56, or gets me closest to 56 without going over? And in this case, 28 doubled is 56. So now if these two add up together to make 476, I have to add those two together. So I get 17 groups of 28, or my width for this problem would be 17 feet. Okay, I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. We're going to continue practicing this in the unit, but thanks for tuning in and joining us, and I'll see you the next lesson. Make it a great day.